It's welcome to Art Pastor Live. It is Wednesday afternoon at 12:30, which is a weird time, which means I don't know if we're going to have anybody actually live with us. But I'm Steve Thomason. This is my weekly live stream at Art Pastor. The whole thing we're trying to do is we're exploring spirituality and scripture through visual art and creativity, because I just think the world needs more wonder. And so every week we look at our theme for the week. And this week we're starting a new theme for the whole month. So the theme for this month is the art of ordinary time. And so I am broadcasting to you live from a place called Camp House up in Brimson, Minnesota, which is a 3.5 hour drive from where I live in Apple Valley. And we're having a great time. And up here at Camp House, this whole summer, they're doing this experiment called Ordinary Time. Guess where I got the idea for the theme for this month? And one of the things that we're doing is there's a team of 3 leaders. There's a pastor in residence, there's a musician in residence, and there's an artist in residence, which I think is really cool. And I was invited to be the artist in residence this week. And our pastor in residence is really cool. And we've been having some fun together. And so I would like to introduce you to the Reverend Dr. Jules Erickson. And I'm so much taller than you in the way we have this. And I'm sorry that let me sink down like this. Okay. Hey, we have a few people live, which is awesome. Now I'm doing this from my phone, which I've never done before. So Jules, is it okay if we all call you Jules on this here
Yes,
live
please.
stream? Yeah. So Jules, you get to be my very first guest on our Pastor live stream, which I think is pretty awesome. It's usually just me all alone in my studio doing art with whoever's watching. And so I'm really glad to share this with you. And so Pastor Jules is a pastor in the ELCA, like I am. And what church do you serve right now?
I'm at All Saints Lutheran Church in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, which is about 12 miles southeast of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one of the reasons that I invited Jules to be on the stream is because not only are you a pastor, but you are an artist.
It's true.
An artist. And if you have been following my live stream for the last couple of weeks, you know that about a month ago I did a whole stream on the word art and what is the meaning of art, and that art simply means skill. And so if you are skilled at something, then you are an artist. And so the art that Pastor Jules has is in ceramics and pottery. So a couple things, what I want us to talk about today is the purpose of ordinary time. So first of all, Pastor Jules, in your experience as a pastor, we have this like liturgical calendar thing that we follow.
Mm-hmm.
And half
it's called
of
the Revised Common Lectionary.
Yeah, there's that too, the Revised Common Lectionary.
Yeah.
That follows the liturgical calendar, and there's all these different color-coded, I think of it like granimals for the year, you know,
Okay,
the
so
color code.
If I could just interrupt you there,
Yeah,
Steve.
please do.
If I had my druthers to have anything in the world, it would be adult granimals. Like, because clothing's hard, and to get it to match is even harder. So
Yeah.
if they had like adult granimals, I'd be like set for life.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. Adult granite, and we're aging ourselves. We found out that we're only 2 months apart in age.
Yeah.
And so we share a lot of like childhood cultural things.
Movies,
and so
songs.
granimals were definitely our childhood. Whereas, so those of you who don't know what a granimal
What
is.
you would do is you would match up the labels on something so that you know what coordinates.
That's right. So like
So
giraffe to
two
giraffe, you know
white-
your clothes match.
Yeah, but if it's a hippo to potamus, no, wait, that's not right. It's a hippopotamus.
Yeah, it's
A hippopotamus
to
to
a crocodile.
A crocodile, it wouldn't
Yeah,
work.
you would be laughed at school because your clothes wouldn't match.
That's right.
Basically, yeah.
But this is kind of like the conversation we've been having all week.
Yeah.
Like,
So we've been having a good time, and we want you to have a good time. And I just realized that when I started my broadcast my microphone wasn't plugged in properly, so hopefully I sound a little better now. So if you are live with us on the stream, I'm hoping that I can see the chat. Yeah, so that's a private chat. There's the actual chat. Okay, so if at any time during this stream you have any questions for Pastor Jules or for me or for the universe, feel free to drop a chat in. We're on Facebook and YouTube right now. So we can make this interactive if you have any questions. Usually I end up, so my stream usually has the first half we talk about things and think about, like, would that access that part of our brain where we think about and be a little bit more analytical. And then the second half we go into like creating art. But here's the thing. I don't have the technology to create art on the stream today. So we're going to talk about.
That's why you had me come on.
You are the art.
I'm the art.
You're the live art.
And don't call me Art, call me Jules.
That's right, Jules, the artist. And so we got totally distracted by Garanimals. So my real question was, first, let's talk about the color-coded year, where the church calendar is divided basically into half, right? You've got the half that has all the holy feast days that goes from Advent to Pentecost, and then the other half that's green and that we call ordinary time.
And I call it the long green growing season.
The long green growing season. So from a pastoral perspective, who follows a liturgical arch throughout the year, what do you do with ordinary time?
I have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, like tell us about that.
Well, so this year is Mark, and like this next Sunday will
The Gospel of Mark.
the Gospel according to Mark, yeah. The Holy Gospel according to Mark. So this coming week, we're going to be talking about how Jesus sends the disciples out 2 by 2. And I really resonated with the text when I talked about shaking the dust off your feet. Because I think sometimes we get encumbered when we don't feel welcomed in a certain situation. And I think maybe it's okay to express, like, it's okay to knock the dust of other people's stuff off your feet as you continue to share the word and are the person that you were designed to be, the creative person that you were.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. I love that. So that's what you're doing this particular week. Mm-hmm. And so in general, like, what is the purpose or the overarching idea behind ordinary time? And what are we supposed to do as disciples of Jesus with ordinary time?
I have no idea.
Really? That's good.
I've been gone for this is like my 3rd week of being away. So nice. I was invited to camp to do ordinary time. And I thought, well, I want to make it extraordinary. So I don't know really what they're talking about. And then they sent us all this material and I was getting ready to go abroad. And I just was like, I'm not reading anything. And then I got a bunch of emails and I thought, I'm just going to show up. So Steve said he would actually answer the question of ordinary time instead of putting it on me, just for the record. Because I just know it's a long green season of like growing discipleship so that you can grow discipleship so you can grow discipleship. Yeah. That's how I see it.
Oh, that's perfect.
Sent out by 2 by 2.
Yeah, well, there you go. You nailed it. You must be like a professional. Because the ordinary time is all about what does it actually mean to be a disciple of Jesus in your everyday life? Yeah. You know, without all of the pressure of high holy feast days and throwing parties and now we're in red. Blue and now we're in purple and now we're in
what chasuble should I wear?
Yeah. And like, oh, I gotta get the whole family together because it's Christmas and there's all of these things, right? So ordinary time is just like, let's chill. And it's summer. So we live in Minnesota, up here in the Northern Hemisphere. It gets warm, theoretically, and the sun shines, theoretically. And like back in the farming, you know, if you live in a rural and agricultural society, you're just watching the corn grow, like literally watching the corn grow.
You can hear the corn grow.
Yeah, you can hear the corn grow, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nope, it just goes
other than wait and be present and like scare off the crows and keep the bugs at bay and weed it once in a while, right? So that's what I feel like around ordinary time. And in particular, for me as art pastor, and what I'm concerned about and wondering about is how does art the art of, for me, the art of drawing and painting, and for you, the art of pottery. The big question I'm asking all month is, how do you connect with God in the ordinary rhythms of your life? And so I would like you to think about that all month long. And if you've got ideas for that, put them in the chat right now, of how you connect with God in the ordinary rhythms of your life. And then what we're going to talk about, because we are both artists within a particular skill set, how do we connect with God through the art? So I'm going to throw it to you and say, see what I did there? Throw, because you're a potter.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. And just talk to us about
Do you
your
want me to
pottery.
wedge it a little bit?
Yeah, wedge it, spin it. Just talk to us about, first of all,
Centrifugal
just
force.
Yeah, what is pottery? What does it mean to you? How do you connect to God? It's a huge question. Just geek out over pottery for a
Oh
minute.
man, I could totally do that all day.
Do it.
Well, pottery for me, I started literally when I was probably 14. So that was like, I'm gonna do it.
You gonna age us?
Yep.
Okay, do it.
41 years ago.
41 years ago. Yeah, we were both born in 1968. Woo!
Yeah.
And graduated in 1986. Get that? 68, 86.
That's how we
It's a
remember
perfect
it.
year. It's a perfect year. Go ahead.
Whereas other people have different dates and they can't remember.
They
them.
can't. No, we're
It's
the
not
only
as
ones who
easy.
can remember.
Yeah.
Pottery.
I got into pottery when I was in high school, and I started with hand building, and I really just love the texture. In fact, even when I was in elementary school, I can remember sitting in my room. I think it was like a fourth grade class, and I was real frustrated because I couldn't spell anything. And I was having a hard time in classwork. Found out later I was dyslexic, so maybe that's why I like to think in pictures, because that's what people that have a little bit of learning disability tend to think in pictures. So like if I'm telling a story, I want to use all of the senses to try to draw a picture in people's minds. I kind of do the same thing with pottery. So I started with hand building when I was in fourth grade. I made this tiny little alien dude. It was basically like a snowman with two like tentacles on the top, and on its tummy it said PJ. And I found it recently, and I thought, huh, that's what people call me at church.
Pastor Jules.
PJ.
It was a
What do they call that?
portent of things
to
coming.
come. Yeah. Who knew? Anyway, my parents were so kind. They gave me a electric wheel when I was ordained. And so I actually got my undergraduate degree from Mankato State in studio art. I got a minor in that. My major was in recreation, parks, and leisure services. And that was basically telling people how to play in community. And the real focus there was like everybody gets to win. It wasn't about competition. It was about like, how do we recreate? How do we recreate? How do we engage in the park system? How do we organize our leisure time so that it can edify our spirits and sort of do what Beth calls that novel reconnecting of all of the brain stuff that you need to kind of to heal your brain. So I, worked at it a little bit when I was at my first call. And then when I moved up to the cities after about 6-7 years, I was able to get a kiln for like super cheap.
What's a kiln?
A kiln is it's like a pizza oven without wood. It's like the same brickwork that you would use in a pizza oven. It's like kiln bricks, and it's usually kind of like in an octagon sort of size, and it has a certain cubic feet to it. And then you use it to fire the clay. So if I may just walk you through the process.
Please do.
Okay, so you start with clay, and there's all sorts of different clay bodies. And there are some that are low fire, there are some that are mid fire, and there are some that are high fire. Porcelain would be an example of high fire. And porcelain is really fussy to throw. It doesn't have as much flexibility in it. It just has a lot of slip. And so it's hard to really throw it without it kind of falling apart on you. It has a lot more sand quality in it, which makes it like really delicate. I use medium, which is mid-fire ranges, we fire it at 06 and 6. And 06 is a temperature gauge. After you have thrown your pot and trimmed your pot and dried your pot, then you put it into the kiln. And that number is 1,888 degrees
Wow.
Fahrenheit.
That's hot. Don't put your hand in that.
And that's called the bisque.
The bisque.
And then you
Which is
take.
different than a biscuit.
It's very different than a biscuit.
Okay.
A biscuit is something that you drink with your tea. when
So I
you're
spelled
coffee.
tea with your biscuit.
That's
Sorry,
right.
bisque.
Bisque.
We get very distracted.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
You guys will love it. And then after you take it out from the bisque load, you glaze it, and then you put it back into the kiln, and that's 2,284 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
And then you let that, and that's cone 6, and you let that cool down, and then you wait a day or two, and then you open up the kiln, and you go, Christmas! And then you pull out your pieces. Now, when I first started throwing pottery, I would say it was safe to say maybe 10%, maybe a lump of clay that was thrown on a wheel, opening up the wheel, drying it to leather hard, which is the still kind of malleable time when you flip it over and you trim the base. Then you put it to bone dry. And then if you get it from bone dry to greenware, then the greenware goes into the bisque kiln. And then from the bisque kiln, you glaze it. And then from the glaze, you put it into the glaze load. And if it, like from start to finish, I would say when I first started, maybe 20%.
Wow.
Now I'm kind of maybe 90%.
Wow.
And I don't know any potters that have ever gotten 100%.
That's amazing.
But it's not about productivity, it's about process.
Say more about that.
Okay, so I'm not a production potter. I have been commissioned to do certain things for certain people, like, excuse me, I've done chalices and patens, a fancy name for, you know, where you hold the wine, and then the plate that holds the host.
For communion.
For communion sets and things like that. Flagons, that's a fancy word for pitcher. I've done a couple of baptismal fonts. Those are really big and hard to make. Those can be up to 18 to 24 pounds of clay. But the thing is, every time you throw a pot, like right now I'm working on a project where I've been asked to create mugs that are a 20-ounce pour. I recognize that I need like 1,200 grams of clay in order to make a big enough vessel, which looks gargantuan, but it's going to shrink by about between 11 and 13% by the time everything's dried, bisqued, and then refired at the glaze level. So it's really weird to do production pottery like that. Like, oh, make 75 bugs, I can do a 20-ounce pour. But mostly I like doing my own stuff where I sit down with a piece of clay and I go, hey, what do you want to be? And then I just listen to the clay. And the first stage of that is really centering the clay. And I can throw an entire pot with my eyes closed. Or I can throw an entire pot watching my dogs in the backyard do MMA doodle wrestling. Which, if you go to my Facebook page, you can see them doing that, and it'll say MMA Doodle Wrestling.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, where can they find your page?
It's just Jules Erickson on Facebook.
On Facebook.
Or my Instagram is Juicy Fruit.
Juicy Fruit on Instagram, on the IG, as they say.
Yeah.
So
JUSECFRUIT.
JUSECC.
FRUIT.
Juicy Fruit.
Juicy Fruit.
Nice.
Not to be confused with the gum, which I find to be a very dull gum.
It is.
Because it like holds its flavor for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's kind of like me. Okay, so you said something that really captured me, both in what you said and how you said it. You said you center the clay.
Yes.
And I felt like you were also saying you are being centered by the clay.
Absolutely.
And so I want to use that.
It's the hardest pot. It's the hardest part of throwing. Is the hardest part of creating a pot is the centering.
Yeah. So that seems like a good segue for me to. I want to ask you about and wonder with you about how the process of making a pot in your way, because I love how you explained it, is a spiritual practice for you, if it is.
Yeah. I find that, like, if I get really tense or frustrated or just tired, I will go down into my studio and I'll, like, maybe weigh out, uh, let's say, in this case, like 800 grams of clay. And maybe I'll make like 6 or 7 mugs in a row. And then I can be like, oh, see, I completed something today. Because in ministry, I call it, ministry is like uh, constantly the gift of interruptions. Like, really good ministry happens when you're being interrupted by something that you didn't imagine was going to happen.
Yeah, it drives me crazy.
I'm sure it would, yeah. So, I mean, like, people come in to the office and they might have death of a loved one, or they might have just found out that their friend has cancer, or, you know, something's wrong with the parking lot, or, you know, it can be all of these different things that kind of you think are distracting you from, like, doing what I call, like, our call is the office of word and sacrament. Like, that's what we're called into. Like, if I ever forget what my job description is, all I need to do is, like, look at the rite of ordination. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But if you're able to sort of crack that open a little bit, you recognize that parking lot is actually really important, because you're keeping people safe as they're making their way into a space where hopefully they're going to be given some spiritual nourishment. And you know, when people are having issues within their family system, or if they have a death in their family, yeah, that's an interruption, but it's one that you can really engage with people. That's also really exhausting to abide with people when they're going through difficult times. So the way that I find myself recharging is like, I'm going to go to the studio now for a while, which is like just down in my basement. So I don't have to like drive anywhere or go anywhere. I just like slide down to the basement, open up the door for the doodles, so watch them in the backyard, and then I will just center myself. I will weigh and measure, wedge. The other thing that I just mentioned while I was up here is that within the last, probably, maybe it's been a year now, I finally got some plaster. And the plaster is a big flat piece that's made just specifically for clay. And you can put all your slimy clay on top of it, and within a day, you can peel it off, and it'll be dry enough for you to re-wedge and use again. So you can make mistakes on the wheel. You can have your vessel like spin off. You could lose your top of it. You could all the trimmings and stuff that you do for the bottom of the wheel, or to make the vessel a certain shape, or to have texture on it. All of that stuff can go into a bucket and be reclaimed. And that's why I love the metaphor of pottery as people as vessels that carry around this Christ light within us. You know, sometimes we feel broken, sometimes we feel empty, but that light is still within us. And, you know, that's where that, I think it was 2 Corinthians 4 that I pulled that out. We carry this treasure within us in ordinary clay pots of our being. And every vessel has a certain kind of look to it. It has a foot, it has a hip, it has a shoulder, it has a lip, it has a lid. Not all of them have lids, but you know that idea, it has a lip to it. How does it feel? I always tell people, if you're going to come over and pick out a mug, put it in your hand first and let the mug choose you. Because you got to know how it feels. Like, does it have the right balance? Is it comfortable? Is it aesthetically pleasing? So I love the whole process. It's a long process. People will be like, hey, can you make me a mug and get it to me by next week? And I'm like,
Nope.
no. It's like,
No, I cannot.
it is like a 6-week to maybe 2-month process.
Yeah.
You know, it's, this week I've had the privilege to watch Steve do some of his artwork, and I've been using Procreate kind of like I use my guitar. I'm just like a hack. You know,
That's a drawing app, illustration app for the iPad is what Procreate is. Yeah.
And he sits down the other night and just draws this awesome cartoon, and I'm like, I wish I could do that.
No killing involved in my process.
Yeah, but I also recognize that he'd come over to my house and be like, how do you center again?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I mean, we all have our strengths, and I like to say what Brene Brown says: comparison is the thief of joy.
Absolutely.
So
Say that again and slow.
comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, write that down, everybody. That's
so
worth it right there.
Even though he can do something that I found absolutely extraordinary, I'm doing something that he might find absolutely extraordinary.
I've seen her work online, and I can't wait to actually hold one in my hand. But it is extraordinary. Like, she is a master potter.
Yeah.
Beautiful work,
And
which I would never be able to do that.
And it's okay to say, I'm really good at that, and I feel good about that. And I think what we've been experiencing here as we interact with folks that have come up to Camp House is they're like, oh, you guys are really good at X, Y, and Z. And we're like, yeah, no, yes, but here's some techniques that you can use to edify your own spirit as you're moving forward. And here's, I like to say to people, if you don't like pottery, stop doing pottery. If you don't like drawing, stop doing drawing. Maybe you like macrame. I don't know. I mean, underwater basket weaving used to be a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is anymore.
I don't know.
Could be.
It should be. If it isn't, we should bring it back.
I feel like I could bring it back because there's a lot of plants that need to be hung in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. We're here all week.
Well, you brought up ordinary time here at Camp House. And so I think that let's let people know what's actually happening here at Camp House. There's only 1 week left for this season, and so you could actually come next week if you wanted to. But I hope they do it again next year. But what has been ordinary time at Camp House for you?
So we have a pretty much set schedule, Monday through Thursday, it looks like. And, we have meals together. We have some education time together. We have worship together. We have another meal together. They snack a lot.
We eat all day.
Like he eats all day.
So good.
I just try to eat like.
When at camp, eat what is set before you. That's from the gospel. Bottomless pit. Not so much. I'm happy with whatever they give me, but we do a lot of eating. I mean, if that's your jam, you're more than welcome here. But we also have teaching time with Steve. I have teaching time with me, and this week I've been doing this really interesting merger between Brene Brown's work and Bowen Family Systems Theory, which is my jam. It's kind of like my specialty area next to grief work. And I kind of combined both of those today a little bit in doing There's
family.
been some tears in session.
But in a good way, not like I wasn't.
It's been good.
I wasn't hurting them.
No.
I was evoking.
Releasing cathartic tears.
Yeah. And also really funny humor from a couple of the people who had just grown periodically.
Yeah. So good.
Oh, a couple of our colleagues are in that group, and they just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So we're studying, we're eating, we're playing.
We're swimming, saunaing.
Sauna.
So yeah, for all the Finns out there, this is the place for you, because this is a place where you can take sauna, jump in the lake. And we're getting commentary from the director.
Gretchen, the camp director, just walked behind us. Maybe we can grab.
She kind of snuffled at us.
Yes.
It's better than a sneer.
Oh, somebody just gave us a thumbs down
Oh.
for Finnish saunaing.
Oh no.
Maybe, or maybe just for us. I don't know. But continue on. Camp House.
Well, so years ago, I went to a camp called Holden Village, and that's out in Chelan, Washington. Have you ever been?
I've not been there. I've always wanted to.
Yeah, it's like you have to go train, plane, automobile, ferry, bus, and it's just really hard to get to. But it's beautiful, and the format that has been created here up at Camp House is pretty similar to what they do out at Holden, where you have flex time to do the things that you want. You can read, you can write, you can rest. I've been taking daily naps.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Have you?
I haven't. I've been just
You've been working when I've been napping.
arting. I've been drawing my brains out.
It is true. He's drawing a dragon for me.
Dragon.
And that might be his name. Dragon.
Yeah.
Go.
Beautiful.
And I'll give them a mug in exchange.
Oh, I love it. Sold. So yeah, so it's been great, and so I'm going to just use that as a transition as we wrap up our time, because we're definitely just going to do a shorter session today because
we got a thumbs down already.
we got a thumbs down already. It's okay. We love thumbs downs, and so I will just say that Pastor Jules' sessions have been really great, talking about the Brene Brown braving and the grief work. I did my genogram this morning, and it's always a interesting process to do. And so for those of you who are watching Art Pastor Live and are following what I'm doing weekly and are you subscribe to my blog, or you're a member of the Art Pastor Network, which if you aren't, I invite you to do that, because if you join the Art Pastor Network, I do a visual text study every Monday afternoon that is just for members of the network. And I have courses available that are just available for members of the network. So I've got How to Study the Bible and the Gospel of Mark course. And I'm going to be doing a course on discipleship that's going to go out in September. So anyway, for those of you who have been following this stuff, usually what I do on these live streams is I create a piece of art live, a drawing or painting live using my digital stuff. I don't have the technology to do that today. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to share with you throughout, when I get back home and my technology is at full speed, I'm going to share with you all of the art that I've created this week, because I brought up my plein air kit. I've been doing gouache painting, which is a full color opaque watercolor media. I've done several paintings throughout the week. I'll do a few more, I'm sure, before I go home on Friday.
Zen doodle.
I've been holding workshops on Zentangles.
Oh, tangle.
Yeah, Zentangles. You can call them Zendoodles.
I have a doodle at home. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Never mind.
And I've just been doing workshops. And what's really great about the Ordinary Time at Camp House is it's very intergenerational. We had an 18-month-old and a 92-year-old and everything in between. And just seeing everybody be together, and they come to my art workshops, and we create beautiful drawings and designs together. We just explore creativity and our spirituality through art. And so, since it was rainy and cloudy yesterday, I stayed inside and did a pencil drawing of a dragon. And so I don't know what's going to happen today. And for me, it's just been the pure joy of being an artist in residence. Like, my whole purpose for being here this week is to just get my art on, just going, right. Drawing. I'm not the pastor. That's her job. And although.
Which means that I've been leading worship, like a really deep thought every day, like astoundingly
so deep that I almost got the bends when I got done with worship.
Yeah, he was so dizzy. But we've had like extraordinary musicians in Ben and in Nate, and oh my goodness, particularly funny.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
It's so much fun. We're having a great time up here, and it's
I don't know if you can tell.
It's all about creativity and spirituality and the slower rhythm. So I'm going to just leave you with this thought before we sign off. Throughout this month, I hope you will track with me. Of course, you're probably watching this video after the fact, because very few people go live in real time. And you're probably playing at a double speed, and I'm sure we look really silly at double speed, but that's okay, because that's how I watch everyone else's live stream, is at double speed after the fact. But
I didn't know that was possible.
Oh, absolutely. Just hit the gear, go double speed time, and I'll be talking like this, and now I'm talking like it's really great.
But
so,
if we
slow it down, this is real time. Yeah. So throughout this whole month, I'm going to be exploring connecting with God in the rhythms of your ordinary life. And for you, it may be taking walks. It may be learning how to actually turn your dishwashing routine into a spiritual practice. It may be like oh, changing diapers can actually be an act of worship. It really can. Raising small children, which seems like it could be a distraction from your spiritual life, if you reframe it, can be your act of worship in your ordinary time.
Mowing.
Mowing is one of the most meditative things for me.
I agree.
And yeah, so like just the ordinary mysticism of how we interact
What
with
does
God.
mysticism mean?
It means interacting with the mystery of ultimate reality in everyday life.
Yeah, we use fancy words.
Mysticism.
The other word for the day that was this yesterday? Was adiaphora.
Adiaphora. All the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yep.
So stop worrying about it, which is almost everything. Because all that matters is God loves you, and Jesus showed us that. So try to just follow his example.
And you're not alone. You're capable, worthwhile, you're lovable, and you rock.
You rock.
Just be you. Everybody else is taken.
I love that. Be you. Everybody else is taken. God loves you.
And
You
so do we.
beautiful, beloved child of God. And the reason I do this whole ministry is so that I and anybody who wants to join me can grow deeper in the love of God through Jesus Christ in the power of the Holy Spirit for the sake of the world. So, Pastor Jules, thanks for joining me today.
It was my pleasure, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking me.
You bet.
I feel
Super
special
fun.
being like the first one.
First one. There can only be one first. And you're it. Good choice. All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Hey, you guys will see.